Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The notification chime shattered the silence of the boardroom like a gunshot, signaling the end of my career and the start of my ruin. I didn't just freeze. My blood turned to ice in my veins. That specific chime, a custom, trilling arpeggio, was set for only one contact, him. The man who owned my nights, the phantom lover who poured thousands into my bank account just to hear me breathe. The dominant force who whispered sweet corruptions into my ear through a blackened screen. But my phone wasn't the one ringing. The sound, clear and damning, was coming from the pocket of the man standing at the head of the table. The man who had spent the last 6 months making my waking life a living hell. Alistair Thorne, the devil in a 3-piece charcoal suit. He paused mid-sentence, his hand hovering over the projection of my failed architectural rendering, and pulled the sleek black device from his jacket. His thumb swiped the screen. The exact moment I had hit send on a desperate plea for comfort under the table. And his eyes, the color of frozen ocean water, snapped up to lock onto mine. To understand how I ended up hyperventilating in a boardroom while the most powerful architect in New York stared at me with the sudden, predatory recognition of a wolf spotting a wounded deer, you have to understand the duality of my existence. My name is Julian, and I live 2 lives. In the daylight, I am a junior associate at Thorne & Sterling, a prestigious architectural firm where dreams go to die under the crushing weight of impossible standards. I am the coffee runner, the redline scapegoat, the exhausted 24-year-old drowning in student loans and medical bills, for a mother whose memory is fading faster than my bank balance. I am invisible except when I am being flayed alive by the CEO. Alistair Thorne is not just a boss. He is a force of nature. He is 32, breathtakingly handsome in a way that feels unfair, sharp cheekbones, jet black hair always styled to perfection, and a physique that hints at a rigorous discipline beneath his tailored armor. But he is cruel. He tears apart blueprints with a red pen as if he were slashing arteries. He demands overtime without a thank you. He looks at me not with hatred, but with a cold, dismissive disappointment that hurts worse than shouting. But when the sun goes down, I am Jules. Jules belongs to Atlas. We met on Sanctum, an exclusive app for high-net-worth individuals seeking specific, discreet arrangements. I joined out of desperation. I stayed because of the addiction. Atlas was anonymous. No photos, no voice calls without a modulator, just text and the occasional audio clip that sounded like deep, vibrating command. Atlas was everything Alistair was not. Where Alistair criticized, Atlas praised. Where Alistair stripped me of confidence, Atlas built me up, telling me I was beautiful, intelligent, and worthy of being spoiled. And spoil me he did. It started with paying off a credit card. Then, gifts arrived at my P.O. box, cashmere sweaters, a new drawing tablet, rare inks. You sound tired, my little bird. Atlas had messaged me 2 nights ago. My boss. I typed back, curling up in my small, drafty apartment, clutching the phone like a lifeline. He's a monster. He scrapped the entire atrium design. I haven't slept in 30 hours. I hate him, Atlas. I truly hate him. The typing bubble from Atlas hovered for a long time. Perhaps he pushes you because he sees your potential, Atlas replied. No, I fired back. He pushes me because he's a sadist who gets off on power. He humiliates me. Today he told me my sense of spatial awareness was offensive. Who says that? I will take care of you, Jules, Atlas promised, followed by a notification of a transfer that covered my rent for 3 months. Forget him. Focus on me. Be a good boy and send me a picture of your neck. I want to see where I would mark you. It was a heady, intoxicating dynamic. I was the pampered prince by night and the scullery maid by day. It was the only thing keeping me sane. Until this week. The tension at Thorne & Sterling had reached a breaking point. We were bidding for the Elysium project, a massive eco-skyscraper in Dubai. It was an all-hands-on-deck situation, meaning Alistair was in rare form. The air in the office was so thick with stress you could taste the ozone. Julian, Alistair's voice was a low baritone that usually sent a shiver of fear down my spine. He stood by my desk, looming. This rendering. The lighting logic is flawed. I followed the specs, sir. I stammered, standing up. The refraction index of the glass is wrong. Alistair cut me off. He didn't shout. He never shouted. He just spoke with a quiet, lethal finality. Do it again. Stay until it's finished. I don't care if it takes all night. Sir, I have plans. I dared to whisper. I didn't really have plans, but Atlas had promised a live session tonight. A rare treat where we would chat in real time for hours. Alistair's eyes narrowed. He leaned in, his cologne, sandalwood and cold rain, invading my senses. Cancel them, unless your plans are more important than your career? Though judging by this work, perhaps you don't value your career very much. The insult stung, hot and sharp. I sat back down, defeated. Yes, sir. That night, alone in the darkened office, the city lights flickering outside like mocking stars, I cried. I cried out of exhaustion, out of frustration, and out of a deep, aching loneliness. I texted Atlas. He kept me late again. He ruined our night. Atlas didn't reply immediately. When he did, the tone was different. He kept you late? Is the work done? Yes, I typed, angry that even my online lover seemed focused on the work. But I'm exhausted. I want to quit, Atlas. I can't take his abuse anymore. Don't quit, Atlas commanded. Persevere. Resilience is attractive. For the first time, I felt a spark of resentment toward Atlas. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one being ground into dust by Alistair Thorne. The breaking point came 2 days later. The day of the presentation. I had poured my soul into the revised designs. I had barely slept. I wore my best suit, which was actually a gift from Atlas. A sleek navy number that fit me like a second skin. I felt good. I felt ready. I walked into the boardroom. The entire executive team was there. Alistair sat at the head, looking like a king on a throne of ice. Begin, he said. I presented. I flowed through the slides. I explained the lighting logic. I felt passionate. When I finished, there was a silence. Interesting, the client said, nodding. Alistair cleared his throat. Interesting is not the word I would use. My heart stopped. Alistair stood up, walking toward the screen. While the aesthetics are pleasing, the structural integrity of the West Wing is compromised by this design. It's amateurish. It prioritizes form over function to a dangerous degree. Frankly, I'm embarrassed this made it to the presentation stage. He didn't just reject the work. He eviscerated me in front of the clients. He called my work dangerous. He called me amateurish. I stood there, feeling the blood drain from my face. The humiliation was physical, a nausea roiling in my gut. The clients looked uncomfortable. Alistair looked bored. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take another second. My hand slipped into my pocket. I grabbed my phone. Under the table, blindly, I typed a message to Atlas. I needed an escape hatch. I needed to know that someone somewhere valued me. I'm done. He just destroyed me in front of everyone. I'm walking out. I need you, Atlas. Please, tell me I'm worth something. I hit send. Ding, ding, ding. The sound came from the head of the table. Alistair froze. He pulled out his phone. He looked at the screen. He looked at me. Time seemed to warp. The silence in the room wasn't just awkward anymore. It was heavy, suffocating. Alistair's expression shifted. The mask of the cold CEO cracked. His eyes widened, pupils blowing wide. He looked from his phone to me, then down at my phone which was still glowing in my hand, then back to my face. He knew. In that second, the puzzle pieces slammed together in my mind, horrifying and jagged. The odd coincidence of the gifts. The way Atlas knew exactly when I was working late. The way Atlas defended the boss's harshness. Alistair was Atlas. The realization was a physical blow. I felt bile rise in my throat. The man who whispered love to me at night was the same man who tortured me by day. It was a sick game, a twisted power play. He had been laughing at me the whole time, breaking me down in the office so I would run crawling to him on the app for comfort. "Julian," Alistair said, his voice unrecognizable. It wasn't the CEO's voice. It was Atlas's voice, lower, rougher, stripped of the professional veneer. "Excuse me," I choked out. I didn't wait for permission. I turned and ran. "Julian, wait." I heard the chair scrape back. I heard his heavy footsteps. But I was faster. Adrenaline is a powerful fuel. I sprinted through the glass doors, past the shocked receptionist, and into the elevator. I mashed the button for the lobby, my vision blurring with tears of rage. I blocked Atlas on the app before the elevator even hit the ground floor. I blocked his number. I ran out of the building and into the pouring rain of the New York afternoon, vanishing into the crowd. I spent the next 3 days in a depressive fugue state. I didn't leave my apartment. I ignored the pounding on my door. I ignored the emails from HR. I ignored the flowers that started arriving. Bouquets of lilies, orchids, peonies, piling up in the hallway because I refused to open the door. I was done. I was going to move back to Ohio. I was going to work in a coffee shop. I was done with architects, done with men, and done with New York. On the 4th evening, my buzzer rang. Not the downstairs buzzer, the one right at my apartment door. "Go away," I screamed, throwing a pillow at the door. "I'm calling the police, Alistair." "Julian." His voice came through the wood, muffled but distinct. "I'm not leaving until you open this door. I have the master key from your landlord. Don't make me use it. I want you to open it." The audacity, the sheer, unadulterated arrogance. Anger, hot and blinding, finally overrode my grief. I marched to the door. I was wearing oversized sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. I looked like a wreck and I didn't care. I ripped the door open. "You have 5 seconds to—" My voice died in my throat. Alistair Thorne stood in my grim, peeling hallway. But he didn't look like the devil in Dior. He looked wrecked. His hair was wet, plastered to his forehead as if he had walked here. His tie was undone, hanging loose around his neck. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the hollow of his throat. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. There were dark circles under his eyes, and a shadow of stubble on his usually pristine jaw. And in his hands he held roses. Not a polite bouquet. A massive, chaotic armful of dark, blood-red roses. Their thorns were sharp. I could see a small scratch on his thumb, a bead of blood distinct against his pale skin. "Why?" I whispered, the fight draining out of me, replaced by a confused ache. "Why are you here? To fire me in person? To laugh at how you tricked the stupid intern?" Alistair stepped forward, and for the first time in the history of knowing him, he hesitated. He looked unsure. "May I come in?" he asked quietly. "Please." I stepped back, leaving the door open. He walked into my tiny studio apartment. It was cluttered and smelled of stale takeout. He looked absurdly out of place, a sleek panther in a cardboard box. He placed the roses on my small dining table, seemingly uncaring that the water dripped onto the wood. Then he turned to me. "I didn't know," he said. I let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. "You didn't know? Alistair, you're a genius. You calculate structural loads in your head. You're telling me you didn't know the guy you were sexting was the guy sitting 20 feet away from you?" "I didn't," he insisted, his intensity flaring. He took a step toward me, reaching out but stopping short of touching me. "On Sanctum, you were anonymous." I fell for the mind, the wit, the submission. I didn't put the pieces together until the Navy suit incident. The Navy suit. I recalled the gift. That was 2 weeks ago. "Yes," Alistair confessed. "I saw you walk in wearing it. It was jarring. I realized then that my Jules was my Julian. And instead of telling me," I hissed, "you decided to treat me like garbage? You humiliated me. You tore apart my work." Alistair flinched. The great tyrant actually flinched. I panicked, he said, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. Julian, look at the position I was in. I am your CEO. You are my subordinate. If I revealed myself, it would be a lawsuit. It would be coercion. I was terrified that you only talked to Atlas because of the money. And if you knew it was me, the boss you hated, you would be disgusted. So you made me hate you more? I tried to create distance. Alistair shouted, his composure cracking. I tried to push you away at work so I could figure out how to extricate myself from the online entanglement without ruining your career. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop messaging you. I was jealous of myself. I was jealous that you gave Atlas your sweetness and gave me your fear. You earned my fear, I countered. You were cruel. I was strict, he corrected, though his eyes were pleading. And yes, in the end I was cruel. Because that day in the boardroom, the design wasn't bad, Julian. It was brilliant. It was better than anything I could have done at your age. I blinked. What? I saw it, Alistair said, stepping closer, invading my space. The heat radiating off him was intoxicating. I saw your talent, and it terrified me. You were becoming my equal in the daylight, and you were already my master in the night, even if you thought you were the submissive one. I felt like I was losing control, so I lashed out. It was unforgivable. He dropped to his knees. Alistair Thorne, the man who made grown contractors cry, sank to his knees on my cheap laminate floor. He looked up at me, his eyes wet, raw with emotion. I ruined it, he rasped. I ruined the only thing that made me feel alive. I don't care about the company policy. I don't care about the board. I care that I hurt you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He unlocked it and held it up. The Sanctum app was open. He pressed delete account. Atlas is dead, Alistair said, his gaze locking onto mine, intense and scorching. I don't want to be a faceless voice on a screen anymore. I want to be the man who buys you roses. I want to be the man who grovels at your feet until you forgive him. I want to be the man who earns the right to touch you. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The anger was still there, but it was being rapidly consumed by something else. A deep, magnetic pull that had existed between us for months, partially digital, partially professional, now fully, terrifyingly real. You humiliated me, I repeated, but my voice lacked the venom from before. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you, Alistair vowed. He took my hand, his grip firm but trembling. He pressed his face into my palm. His skin was hot. Punish me, Julian. You like power play. Flip the script. I am yours to command. Fire me. Use me. Just don't leave me. I looked down at him. The power dynamic had shifted so violently the room felt tilted. The wolf was offering his throat to the lamb. Get up, I said softly. Alistair looked up, hope warring with fear in his eyes. He stood, towering over me again, but his posture was slumped, yielding. You're not firing me, I said, stepping into his space, grabbing the lapels of his ruined suit. And I'm not quitting. You're going to reapprove my design. You're going to give me a raise. And you're going to apologize to me in front of the entire team. Alistair's eyes darkened. A flash of that familiar, possessive heat returning. Done. And, I whispered, pulling him down until our lips were inches apart. You're going to show me if Alistair Thorne is as good with his hands as Atlas promised he was. Alistair let out a ragged breath, a sound between a groan and a sob. I will ruin you for anyone else, Julian. You already have, I murmured, and closed the gap. The kiss was not gentle. It was a collision of months of repressed desire, frustration, and secrets. It tasted of rain and obsession. Alistair's hands found my waist, pulling me flush against him, hard and desperate, as if he were trying to merge our very souls. I tangled my fingers in his wet hair, claiming him. The roses lay on the table, forgotten and bleeding onto the wood, a witness to the moment the enemy became the lover, and the boss became the beguiled. And that is how the visionary architect built his own trap, and how I, his humble employee, decided to keep the key. If you enjoyed seeing the mighty Alistair Thorne on his knees begging for forgiveness, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments. Would you forgive a boss who tormented you just to keep you close? Or would you have left him in the rain? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,